Hi, Dr. Scott Jensen here. I want to have a conversation today, mainly because I was astonished at a couple of items that came across my desk today. Mama Bears may be the 2024's racist soccer moms, but where the GOP seeks votes, some see extremism. I want to say that again. Mama Bears may be the 2024 races, elections, political races, soccer moms. In other words, they're saying the Mama Bears may be supplanting the soccer moms. But where the GOP seeks votes, some see extremism. This was an article in the Star Tribune in Minneapolis today, and it was written by Sarah Burnett, Associated Press, July 23rd, 2023. In the content of the article, it says this: Republicans have decided that this is, I think, their golden ticket for the primaries to rile up their base, said Katie Paris, who runs Red, Wine, and Blue, a network of women pushing back on GOP-backed policies. She goes on to say, call it parents' rights, call it Mama Bears, and try to make it sound like something that would be common sense. The reality about parents' rights is that it's just about the rights of a vocal minority that is trying to carry out an extreme political agenda. I was astonished. I don't know who Katie Paris is, and I'm not going to do any name calling or anything else. But I thought, well, I should maybe learn more about her. So I went to the organization that was referenced in this Associated Press article, Red, Wine, and Blue. And on it, it has a logo, and it has a wine bottle splashed alongside of the words Red, Wine, and Blue. June 15th, 2023, about a month ago. Today, Red, Wine, and Blue launched a year-round Virginia state program to organize and mobilize suburban women against extremism, including parents' rights, labeling parents' rights as a form of extremism. Quote from Katie Paris, founder of Red, Wine, and Blue. In Virginia and across the country, the so-called parents' rights movement is about trying to control what our kids read, believe, and learn. Okay, let's just unpack that a little bit here. So she's saying that the parents' rights movement across the country is about trying to control what our kids read, believe, and learn. And is that a problem? Wouldn't parents want to be the major force in what their kids read and believe and learn? Red, Wine, and Blue. I think we have to ask ourselves, why do we have compulsory education in this nation? And the reason is selfish. Our founding fathers and many of our leaders since believed that education was the ticket to a stronger nation. We're not doing education for the purposes of indoctrination. We just think that if we have a citizenry that can read and write, do some arithmetic, read some contracts, sign their name, start a business, that this is a good thing for America. We have schools so that kids can get at some level to a baseline, and that can help launch their dreams for the rest of their lives. If kids want to go on to further learning, they can, and there's a variety of avenues to go into. The military, serving in Peace Corps, serving in a variety of nonprofits, going to a technical school, going to a trade school, taking on a college course, whatever. But the idea that somehow parents aren't supposed to be trying to control what their children read, believe, and learn is sort of astonishing. At the same time this was coming across my desk, there was an article written by David Zweig. He has a Substack, and the article is titled, A Little Discussed Consequence of the Pandemic for Children. And it was July 21st, 2023. And he makes comments about what happened during the pandemic, and he says, test scores have fallen overall, but there are multiple studies that show that the longer a school was closed, the worse the students did. Then he goes on and says, mental health deterioration, weight gain, and an accelerated dependence on screens have all been documented as well from kids' increased isolation, sedentariness, and remote learning. Then he goes on and quotes some data from the preliminary Medicaid and CHIP data snapshot for services through January 2022 through CMS, and uses a graph from Kaiser Family Foundation and points this out. He says, the pandemic led to declines in healthcare services for children with Medicaid and CHIP, so children on medical assistance programs. And then it lists what kinds of services were declining during the pandemic. And he identifies vaccinations dropped, child screening services dropped, blood lead screening dropped, so screening for blood lead levels, dental services dropped, and mental health services dropped. And the kids have become ravaged by the frequency of profound mental health disturbances. We're not just simply talking about an increase in anxiety, we're talking about a powerful increase in depression that has led many to consider suicide as perhaps the best way out. We're talking about bipolar disorders that have developed both at the mild and the severe ends of the spectrum. Ask yourself, who would notice these things? These are the parents. These are mama bears. They're going to know if their child's been getting the vaccinations they had been, or if they've been getting the screening services, the lead screening levels, the dental services, and mental health services. The CDC estimated that in the 2020-2021 school year, a decrease in vaccinations represents 250,000 kindergartners potentially not protected against measles. 250,000 kindergartners not protected against measles because of the pandemic. I think this labeling and this polarizing discussion is just bizarre. Parents should be the champion of their kids. Parents should be committed to wanting to shepherd and control and harness what their kids learn and are exposed to. And as the kids grow older, the parents open up the guardrails and the kids get more exposures. The idea of taking mama bears, who have been a powerful force for saying, hey, our kids are being harmed. Hey, things are happening to our kids that you're not noticing. We shouldn't be insulting mama bears. We should be elevating them. We should be saying thank you. We shouldn't be calling them extreme. We shouldn't have an organization called Red, Wine, and Blue ridiculing them. I'm astonished. I mean, I get it. The 3 years of the pandemic have been tough, and we're going to have to, at some level, realize the power of reconciliation and forgiveness. But that's going to have to happen right alongside of accountability and what the devil happened here. But this idea of just labeling people and saying, oh, okay, we're going to take a shot at them. The mama bears, in so many ways, were the ones who elevated what was happening to the kids during the pandemic. We owe them an eternal debt of gratitude. We don't owe them a string of insults. Mama bears out there and the people who work alongside of you, thank you. I appreciate your efforts.